with the angle of the hook, when you go to set that hook, the jig's going to rotate. So with the angle, it's going to drive it right up into that lip.
Top speed as fast as you can crank it with a 15-mile-an-hour east wind in your face.
And that's where you're going to find all these flatfish. There's all those troughs right on the edges of the sandbars.
If people want to put themselves in that dangerous situation, let them. Don't follow them. If you're uncomfortable, stick to your guns. Don't do it.
Yeah.
90% of everything in their stomach content is going to be mussels.
But these are the same ones I target like world-class tarpon with when I go on vacation.
You want to put that bait on so a lot of the bait is stacked up on the shaft of the hook, and a lot of that hook is exposed with the bait laying up by the shaft of the hook.
Man, you go deep when you're talking rods. I love it.
But if I'm going to go for big fish, I've learned to throw bigger plugs, and they'll produce. I mean.
Hello and welcome, Fat Dad Fishing Show. My name is Rich. I'm the host of the show, and we got a little bit of a different one tonight, kind of like a last minute come on the air and I guess kind of talk about some of the stuff going on with the New Jersey Marine Fisheries Council. We have with us tonight our regular two co-hosts. We have Ed from Captain Hank's Tackle and John from Creeley Custom Rods. Guys, good to see you.
What's up?
What's up? Good to be back. Kind of. Wish it was better for circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just let people know right now. So the meeting's still going on, and we all bailed out for this, but we were there for the entire fluke part, talking about the flounder season, and I can tell you that the few minutes before we came on, we've got a couple of fired up people here about what happened, what the results are. So before we go too far, let's just kind of bring on screen here so that people can see exactly what the limits are. So let's kind of walk through what was out there for people that are not aware. So these are the summer flounder options that were out there. So also called flukes. You had the status quo at the top, which was 3 at 18 inches with a 3-fish bag. And the season was for the 23rd of May through the 20th of September. So that's what we came from. And they were allowed, we were allowed to expand or liberalize the bag for this year because flounder stocks are in really good shape. So, man, so they like to tell us just how much hard work they put into it. And they came out with 5 options for the council to choose from and for people to weigh in on. The first one at the top here is minimum size is 17.5. So they decreased the size by a half an inch, 3-fish bags still. And the season would go from 121 days to 126. It would open on the 21st of May and close on the 23rd of September. So that was the first one. And they went in with that as their preferred option. And then they had their 3 non-preferred. The number 2 was 2 fish at 17 to below 18, and then 1 fish over 18. And that would be a 149-day season. So it would be 5-2 all the way through 9/27. Then you had another slot, which was 2 fish 16.5 to under 18 and 1 fish over 18 with the 129-day season, 5/27 through 10/2. Number 4, which I'm going to tell you right now was my preferred, was the minimum size of 18 inches and a 3-fish bag, which is the same as it was last year. But instead of having the season open for 121 days, it would expand it all the way to 153 days. And it would be open the 1st of May through the end of September. And then the last one was one that I don't think anybody really looked at. It was the worst of the slot options, in my opinion. 1 fish 16.5 to under 18, and then 2 greater than 18. And that would have actually shortened the season to 110 days. So that would run from the 24th of May through the 10th of September. So at the end of the day, John, why don't you announce to everybody who's not aware which one passed?
Well, we are with option 2, which is the 2 fish at 17 to 17.99 and 1 fish greater than 18. Make sure you have a vernier caliper on the boat to make it at 17.99. If you're over the 18 today, you might be in trouble.
Yeah. So there we go. So we now have a slot for flounder, and correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the first slot flounder reg and on the East Coast? I don't know anyone else that has one.
That's the first one I've heard of.
Yeah, I'm very shocked that we beat New York on this one. New York is usually tight with their restrictions, and yeah.
Well, they went the other direction. I mean, they went really liberal this year. I thought
4 to 18 in New York, right?
Yeah, which for them is a big change because they were at 19. Actually, I thought was it 4? Maybe it's 4.
Yeah, it's 4 to 18 this year.
Okay. So yeah, so as James is saying, this is an emergency press conference. Yeah, this is our emergency press conference. So this is where we are. We now have a slot. We now have a slot in there, and it's a very narrow slot, 17 inches, 17 up to 17.99, which just means under 18. So if you have a second fish that touches 18, it's no good. It has to be below that. But it's a narrow slot. You got to get 2 fish within 17 to 18. Now, here was my thought, and this is something that I mentioned during the meeting when they had the public comment. Out of all the options, I thought 4, and I mentioned this already, but I thought 4 would be the best. That's the one that I would support before something else. Just because I think 18 is a realistic size. If not that, I'm good with 1. I mean, that's okay. I just don't like that it's a short season, and I thought that it was really important that we extend the season somehow. In my mind, the way that worked out is everyone would say, yeah, so let's go for 4. We'll keep the larger fish this year. It has the lowest percent of increase in catch out of the 5 options. So next year, when they're still doing well, the flounder populations, now we can move the size down, and maybe next year we have 3 at 17.5 with the long season. So I'm thinking, how are we going to build, right? But no, they didn't do that at all. They just went with that slot. I think it's the best slot option out there that we got, but I definitely would have gone 4-1-2. If it had to be a slot, it definitely would have been 2, though. Ed, you got some opinions, so let's get you on here before you sit there and explode on the screen in front of everyone.
Personally, the whole thing was a train wreck. I mean, where do you start? Like they couldn't figure out what they wanted to vote for. Then they changed it like 3/4 of the way through. They wanted to do 2. Then they all shot it down. Then they listened to everybody. Then they changed their mind. They wanted to go for 2. I don't know. I hope these aren't elected officials, because whoever voted for these people, just no. I don't know. I was in support of 1 or 4 myself. I just think this 2 fish slot limit, it's too much. It's too much to think about, and then there's people making comments about the law enforcement, and those guys are spread thin as it is. So now to add more crap to their plate, I just don't think it's fair to them.
Would you agree, though, that if it had to be a slot, that the second option was better than the other 2?
Only because the season length. Other than that,
yeah. So this is where I kind of I have my issue. The season length for me was definitely the number one.
End of May
concern.
into June. So I don't know.
Well, so here's the one thing to consider with it. So the reason for the slot is because the males are the smaller fish, and they want more males taken than they want females taken, right? So anything over 18, they're going to assume is going to be a female. So that's the reason they put the slot there. They're trying to put more of the tonnage of the catch into the male side, right? I mean, think about it. You only needed 1 male to repopulate the entire world. Ain't the same with the female, right? So that's the thing. So I guess for the fish, technically the 16.5 to under 18, number 3 would have been better, but such a shorter season there. I just couldn't go for it. John, what did you think? I mean, if you had to get a slot, which one would you have preferred?
If you want my honest opinion, shut the season down. Period. I could even care less about a slot.
Okay, well, that's a tantrum. Come on, come on.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Come on, Johnny.
That's extreme.
My thing is with these slot limits. The regulations are there now, where you're gonna have people cheating the system, and you got guys like us that play by the rules. We're gonna get screwed when it starts getting overfished because we already have a problem with conservation and people taking other fish. If we had to go with a slot limit, yeah, I would have went with the 2. I'm not a fan of it because of the size. It's just a small gap. I like the more dates, but if you were going to do a slot limit, I would have liked to seen the dates put on option 5 and went with that slot limit. But again, we're not the ones that make the rules, and unfortunately, I feel some of us are going to start paying the consequences for others' actions. Unfortunately,
maybe I do want to mention the one thing, and we have disagreement between the 3 of us on this one. The comment that was initially made by Bob, right, Stavola, in the meeting about he was disappointed because for those that weren't listening, his name is escaping me, but the representative from law enforcement said, a slot limit or a slot is going to make it much more difficult for us to enforce. It's harder to measure them, so on and so forth. And Bob made the point, look, that's your job to enforce the law. If it takes you another minute to do it, just do it. It is what it is. I can see that point. I understand Bob's point on that because it literally is the job. Yes, it'll be a bigger pain in the neck to measure, but I mean, I don't know that you change fishermen, the hundreds of thousands of fishermen. If they have a problem with the enforcement, then you don't put it as an option from the council, or you fund the wildlife enforcement more than you do the paltry amount that they get today. I think that's a problem no matter what. That's why you never see them out there, because there just aren't enough of them.
Yeah,
I think there's like 3 for the whole coast.
Yeah, there ain't much.
Yeah, I mean, but am I wrong about that? I mean, so is it really any different from the enforcement side?
I guess not. I mean, in that aspect, no.
What was that, Ed? Ed's got a problem with storms in his area.
If anything, it makes their life harder.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. I don't want to sound insensitive about it. I'm just saying, okay, it's. I don't want to use that as a reason not to do something. Again, and I'm going to keep saying this, I was not a big fan of the slot at all. I'm just saying if it had to be a slot, we got the best one possible. So it would probably be my 3rd choice out of the available options. And well, it was the 3rd choice out of the available options because the other 3 of them were slot choices. So, but again, that's the trade-off. You can get the smaller size, but then if you get the smaller size, you have to get the shorter season, right? I mean, the whole thing that it was explained, I think when Jim Hutchinson was on, the way that they do it is by tonnage and by how many pounds are harvested during the season. So if you have $1 million quota or limit, well, if you're going to drop it to, if it's 18 and it's a 2-pound fish average, it's not, but let's say it's 2 pounds. Well, then you can basically take out at 18 inches, 500,000 fish, right? Because then you're going to get 1 million pounds. But if you drop that down to 16 and a half, well, now you're going to catch more fish and they're going to weigh less, but you know what I mean? You can't keep the season open for that. It's still only 1 million pounds. So you're going to catch a lot more fish. You're going to keep a lot more fish. So you're going to hit that 1 million pounds before you normally would have with an 18-inch limit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we have. And that's the balance that nobody wants to strike. because there's nothing you can do about that. If you want smaller fish, you have to have a shorter season, which was option 5, which, if I'm correct, there must have been 40 plus people that commented in there. I didn't hear one person say that they wanted option 5 because of the shorter season.
Yeah.
I think one guy say he didn't only because of the shorter season.
Yeah. And like I said, I liked option 5's size limits. I don't like the dates though.
Yeah. I just wonder if we can back into that somehow. Well, one fish 16 and a half to 18. Yeah. But it's amazing. Look at that. What the 16 and a half does to that season. Just compare that.
Yeah. And here's another point that Heaven and L holds that I'm reading here too. Creates another problem with this slot is, all right, well, you have your 3 fish. 2 of them, let's say, are 17 and a half. One's at 18 right on the nose. You have it in the box and you're still out there fishing. It shrinks up. You get boarded. There creates another issue.
Yeah, so it's a good point. However, I'm just going to keep playing devil's advocate. If that happens today, if your 18 turns into a 17.8, I mean, it's the same thing. You're screwed, right? Which is why, John, you always throw a fish that's borderline over to me to measure the second time, and why we always end up throwing them back, even though we both think that they're good, just because of that reason,
We always do it. I mean, especially on Tog, it's like, it's right there, 15. Like, yeah, just throw it back.
Yeah, if it's at 15, I won't keep it. If it's at 18 for flounder, I won't keep it. I guess you got a lot to lose, a custom rod maker, the jig maker, YouTube channel. We can't get caught doing something bad, because everyone will. That ain't good. That ain't good for any of us. Not that we would anyway, but I mean, yeah. So that's where we are. Be interested to see some opinions in the chat. I mean, here's one here. We got to put Hutch up there.
He's if nobody's aware, he has his fair share to say about law enforcement as well.
Yeah, he is 100% correct. Stupid rules, but they don't ever want to pay for the enforcement. I mean, that's the world, right? Nobody ever wants to pay for it. It wasn't that long ago that first responders were heroes. That didn't last very long. All these people decided that they didn't like that anymore, so now they're gonna just I'll leave that comment aside. Well, we got let's see.
If you look at it from business aspect, I guess it's
Ed, you are like clipping real bad. You're breaking in and out. For participation trophy fishing measured by board or tape, there might be a difference in the radius of the body with tape. Man, I think you got to use a board, right? That's the only way to do it, because once you put that tape over top and it bends with the body, you're adding extra length on it. But again, I don't know that that's any different than it has been in the past. Andrew, you don't keep a fluke that's barely 18. Yeah. Make sure it's at least 18. Yep, exactly. That's what John and I do, Andrew. If it's not clearly over, it is going back. Although sometimes, you hold up the board for the other to look at just to prove it was just over. So you can claim the keeper size later, even though you threw it back. And here's one that was interesting. So Pete brings up slot has worked for other species. Give it a chance and see. I'm okay giving it a chance to see. The one thing that I did hear a lot of in the meeting was, well, the slot worked for striped bass. Look at what's happened with striped bass. Well, to all of us, to everybody that's been fishing the Raritan, Chesapeake and Delaware Bay recently, yeah, it seems like the slot has worked and it's a huge population. It was a great season last year, but the numbers don't support that. The numbers don't support that the slot has really done a ton yet. Maybe it's just too early to tell, but I don't know. Maybe there are other species, maybe not up here, maybe down south. Like I know snook and reds definitely have slots, but I don't know that. I don't know that you can definitely say that slot has worked on the striped bass yet, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, and Pete's saying not just bass, but snook and redfish definitely has had. It's been snook and redfish for quite a while down in Florida and North Carolina and so on. So, are there any points that we have missed on the fluke, guys? John or Ed or anybody in the
Can
chat?
you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now.
Can
You
you hear
just
me
keep
now?
kind of like,
Am I good?
yeah, you keep kind of like going
that's
into
another
like mega
topic.
delay.
That's a topic for another day. I was thinking from a business aspect, I guess it would stretch of the season out. It's going to help, tackle shops and other businesses. But then tournaments are going to be weird. That's the only other thing, like Mike said, tournaments are going to be weird.
Yeah, and for those that aren't aware, well, John, we won't. You don't want to announce it, but John is actually working at coordinating a tournament, and the first thing he said is, "What the hell are we going to do now?" Because you can't just bring in the three. You gotta consider it now, right? I don't know what John's going to end up doing, but
you know what? Since that's, I mean, I don't know how much longer we're staying on, but let me get people's input on that because I'm curious to see. With tournaments, I'm planning to do a fluke tournament. It's for the breast cancer fishing team I'm on, but we'll announce all that stuff later on. The boat, we're planning to do 5 anglers max. Obviously, it would be 3 heaviest fish off a boat. But when you start getting into, kayak divisions and surf divisions, what do you do? Because, at the time, the 3 heaviest fish was going to be great. It was going to work. I think, in my opinion, kayak, we're going to do the 2 heaviest fish, and the surf is probably going to be the 2 heaviest fish as well to give it more of a fighting chance.
yeah.
I'm just curious to see what other people are going to think,
Yeah, I think it has to be. It's just by weight, and I think it's going to have to be heaviest 2 fish.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with boats, and you have a max set of anglers, yes, you could still fall under that rule of the 3 heaviest fish, like it's always been done. Again, though, when you start talking about other stuff, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So let me bring this up real quick. So this is a good question. Do you have to get 2 at 17 before you can keep 1 over 18? That was not part of it. You can get 1 over 18 and 2 between 17 and under 18. So no, you don't have to get those 2 first and then cap it off with an 18 plus. So that's the way that it was written. That's the way it was discussed. So technically speaking, this is not 100% done. It has to actually get written into the regulations after this. So I don't know if it's possible to change anything, but as of right now, it's not official that these are going to be. It's just it passed the vote with the council, and it is their intent to make it official. So let's keep that in mind as well. God only knows what these organizations can do, once they get through the voting and everything like that. So, some good points in there. CPR. Look, you can have the CPR tournaments where you just go by the measurements on camera using the approved boards. And I will say this, I would love that if the tournaments weren't requiring keeper. But the biggest thing about this whole discussion and this process was not for tournament fishers or actually fishermen. It's more for the meat hunters, as far as I was concerned. And I recognize that I'm different than a lot of people. People want to go out and they want to bring back fish if they go out fishing. I don't bring back fish anyway, for the most part. I will keep flounder. I would like to be able to keep a limit of flounder and have it be realistic, but I'm not upset if I go offshore in a boat and pay for it and I don't bring something back. As long as I'm catching, I'm fine. I'm fine throwing it back. So I totally recognize that I'm different than a lot of people, but that was a big part of it. A lot of people were just kind of looking out, and rightfully so, the captains, because that's a big thing for them. If you're going to pay for the boat and pay for the captain and the guiding experience, they're going to want to come home with something. So I do totally understand that. All right. So the one part that we did not get to stick around for, because this was coming up real quick, and quite frankly, after about 3 hours on there, I was going out of my mind. The Seabass. So I have not seen an update on Seabass. Has anything come out on the meeting from that yet? It sounds like they're voting now, actually.
I was just looking.
trying to
I haven't found anything yet.
I don't know what was passed. I think it's gone through. I think they made some kind of motion. I missed it.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, sorry. We wanted to do this just to kind of go through some of the updates. We're not going to have the Seabass or the Scup/Porgy because none of us are on there listening right now. There is something I want to. Well, are there any other things you guys want to bring up about the opening of Flounder besides the fact that we now have a May flounder fishery that we can actually attack like we used to back in the good old days? Is there anything besides that?
I mean, I could say it's definitely trophy hunting now. I mean, got
That's what May's for.
I'm excited in that aspect. We'll be able to go. And Rich, you know it, dude. Catch and release. It's part of our game with some of the stuff. I want to get past that 27, 28-inch fluke. It's going to happen out of the back. I don't know, but
it's going to be tough. But they're there.
But it's going to be a problem because I like to take fluke home every so often. And one of those days where, hey, I catch that 24-inch fluke that I decide that I'm not going to release, and then all of a sudden I catch that one that I want mounted. It's going to be an issue.
Yeah, here's a good point. It's going to suck when you catch that one at 20, throw it in the cooler, and then catch it one at 24 and have to throw it back. I will tell you, it actually, for me, the first time I did that, it did kind of suck. And then I was like, actually, that's pretty cool that I'm throwing back 24 inches. And there was a day, it's a couple years ago, is actually literally 2 summers ago, where I was throwing back multiple 24 plus because I had a 19 in there. I had 2 18s and a 19, so I had limited out, and I was throwing back 24s. I just found like this honey hole of inshore doormats at 24 and 25 and just under 26. And yeah, it sucks, but it also feels pretty good when you're throwing fish back that are that big.
I'm wondering if that's by design.
What? That they want you to do that?
Yeah, if you keep the smaller fish and then you catch that monster, you have to throw it back.
Well, I mean, it's all the better. I'll tell you, this year I'm going to be fine keeping one at 18.2, and then throwing back a 24. But again, I'm not pretending that I'm the same as everybody else. I get that people are pissed, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be. But for me personally, I'm totally fine with that. I mean, John, you mentioned before you just got your tags in. I just got my tags in as well, so I'm ready to go. I'm going to be tagging the bigger ones, and I'm going to be hoping that I get a return on one of those and see that 22, 24 went up to 26, 28 sometime. And some guy up in Montauk ended up pulling in a trophy and ended up eating it. I'd be totally content with that, happy with that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the tagging. It's going to be something different, cool to do. But again, you know it as well as I do. We're not saying that we release every fish, and we're not.
I don't.
I keep some fish myself. I like to take home what I catch. It's part of the reward. But there's got to be some kind of conservation aspect a little bit. And I guess this is a step in the direction that they're thinking that's going to help. But I guess only time's going to tell.
Yeah. So let's hit real quick what the black sea bass options were. I'm not going to put the scup up because I don't even know what they were, to be honest with you. I have actually never caught a porgy, so I don't know. I don't really know much about them.
I caught one by mistake once.
I've never fished for them, and as far as I know, I've never caught one. Maybe I caught one by accident when I was little, and I just didn't realize. But if we look at the black sea bass, now the way that it sounded when we were listening in was that a lot of people were leaning toward or trying to sway the council towards option 2. I think we heard like 4 or 5 people in a row saying option 2. But the preferred one John, you want to go through this? I mean, the it's not laid out as easily, but it's decent days. But the days are they're getting decreased. So I mean, it was a long season, and it ain't so long anymore going into this year.
So honestly, if you look at a lot of these numbers, they still look the same as far as the dates where we've been. If you go down and you look, you maybe close a couple days here. The summer waves are a little bit different. So right now, where we're at is, let me silence this.
You're going to lose 30 days if you go with the preferred option one. It goes down from 186 down to 156 with a 20.7% reduction in intake.
Yeah, the thing is though, I think it's hard for a lot of people to look at is you have these windows for sea bass where it's not like a full gap, and that, I guess that's kind of where I miss it too, is seeing some of these days. So right now, it's where we're at with the status quo is we're open. I can't even see.
Well, look at wave four. Wave four, right? So right now, 7-1 to 8:31. Well, wave four with the preferred option is 7:15 to 8:31. So you lose 2 weeks right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Hold on. I'm trying to open it up. I couldn't see it on the screen.
Which is funny because so everyone knows you're the one who sent this to me.
Yeah,
So.
I mean that is my fault. Technical error. We didn't have it ready. So
Yeah.
So right now we're at 186 days, and basically you do the middle of May to almost the end of June, and then it closes for a week because of spawning, and then goes July to about the second week of August, opens back up in October. So right now the preferred motion they want to do is 8 fish opening on the 17th of May to the 19th of June. Then you go back into the open window on the 15th of July till the end of August with 2 fish, 12.5 inches. And then you go to 8 fish again in the opening of October till the 20th of October. And then wave 6 would be 10 fish at 13 inches opening on November 1st till Christmas Eve. That drops down, I think, about 30 days, like you said, Rich.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
actually, they just passed it.
I think they went with number 4.
Yeah, 13-inch size limit on black sea bass across the board with an open season from May 17th to June 19th at 10 fish. A July 1st through August 31st, 2 fish. October 7th through October 26th, 10 fish. And then November 1st through December 31st, 15 fish.
Well, looks like they
So
didn't
was
go with any
that-
of the options they posted.
And it's doable. I mean, a lot of guys say 13-inch fish. Nah, it's doable. It is.
Well, but that took, that's the difference though, because they're saying that there's a big issue with the population of the black sea bass, and that's why they had to reduce. So you see a 20% plus reduction on those, and then you see the increase in harvestable tonnage with the summer flounder. If I can spit that out, sorry.
They should have went with a slot limit. Why didn't they go with a slot limit?
Yeah, could you imagine? You can keep your black sea bass, but your slot is 12.75 to 12.83.
Yeah.
You can keep 22 fish there, and only 1 over 14 or 1 over 24 inches. There you go. That's what they're going to come out with next year.
Thanks, Ed.
Oh my God. All right, so that covers that. Scup, I have no idea.
I don't see that changing. I don't.
I really can't comment on that one, which is why I said we're just going to talk about the black sea bass and the flounder. So there is one thing. So is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about with this? If there's anything in the chat, put it in right now, because I'm going to move on to one more thing before we go. Something that came up that I was made aware of yesterday that I wanted to mention to everybody. All right. It looks like Heaven and L is okay with the sea bass regs. So I'm going to by proxy be okay with that as well. As somebody who doesn't fish for them very often.
It's good for Elle. It's good for us.
Yeah, I'm fine deferring to people that fish a fishery more than me when it comes down to it. I don't feel like I should have the biggest say in the sea bass because I just don't do it often enough. It's just a fact.
Me either.
All right, let me see if I can get this up on this screen here. All right, so this is something should come up any moment. There you go. Can you guys see that? Yep, you can see that. All right, so this is something that came up. I got a message for those that are not aware. I'm a moderator in the Kayak Fishing for Beginners group on Facebook, which just means I need to keep people from cursing at other people and being rude and all that stuff, along with like 12 other guys. So this guy wanted to post this, and he started talking to me about this. Amelia's Anglers is a fundraising tournament. It's being hosted on Fishing Chaos, and it is a tournament that's open. You can register for saltwater or freshwater, and it benefits this beautiful little girl here who has an undiagnosed liver condition. So you can see just how tiny and cute she is, and they don't know why. They just know that her liver is failing, and it's a fundraiser for a liver transplant that she is going to have. So they're putting on a tournament. You can see they're getting sponsors right now. But the thing is this: it's a national tournament, freshwater or saltwater. It's $50 to register. You can pick either saltwater or freshwater, or do it twice. It would be $50 for each, though, is my understanding. And all you have to do is catch 5 fish in one species. So you can go out and you can catch 5 flounder, and you just enter that you caught 5 flounder, and now it comes a drawing. So it's not measure the fish, it's not weigh the fish, it's not take a picture and it has to be on this particular bump board or anything like that, like a normal tournament. It's just you catch 5 of the same species, you send in the proof, and you were entered. And then at the end, they're going to go through these massive giveaways for everybody that qualified. It's just going to be a random thing. But the big thing is helping out this little girl and her family to get the treatment that she needs. So you can imagine a liver transplant for a little baby like this is, well, she's not a baby anymore, but a little tiny kid like this is going to be extremely expensive and stressful for that family. So the parents may actually come on next week on the stream just for a couple minutes to kind of talk more about it. But I wanted to mention it because it started April 1st, goes through May 31st. Looking at the names in the chat and just guessing some of the other people that are watching, you guys can catch 5 of one species in one day. Just go striped bass fishing right now in the Raritan, in the Mullica, anywhere up and down the coast, and you're probably going to be able to qualify in one day. So if you want to participate in that would be great. So you can look on Fishing Chaos for this. It's called Amelia's Anglers, and just wanted to push people to think about participating in this tournament. So that was that. Anything you guys wanted to go over before we are done, before we are finished and let people go back to their normal Thursday night?
I just want to fish.
Well, we're
the only thing I can add
this
is
weekend.
with these new regs. Is my internet still crap? I'm guessing.
Yeah, you're good.
The only thing I could say with these new regs is maybe it'll push more people to do like the release over 20 type thing. I know Qua and those guys are really working with that, and that might be a fun way to, at least ease the sting a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, and we had talked about doing something, the three of us, for people that release or tag and release, either one, just release fish to kind of like call it out, give people some kind of an incentive to do it, and then share it with everyone. But we haven't really come up with exactly what to do. It's not like we have like, we're going to give away this boat, Don't.
There's one of my driveways somebody can come get.
Yeah, giving away one of John's rods is not cheap. It's not something that we can just say, hey, John will just whip up a rod and we'll toss it out there. You're talking $300, $400, $500, $600 stuff. So But we are thinking about that. I think it, to your point though, Ed, I think it would be good, the release over 20 stuff. Go out and buy a fish tagging kit that costs like $60 and you get, I think, 20 tags. I think that's the American Littorals. Is that how much it was? For 20 tags, John?
Yeah, it was 60 to start out as a new member. It was $60. You got 20 tags. I know me and you talked about it. Unfortunately, when you get that tagging kit right from them, it is the spaghetti style tags. I'm not a fan of those at all. I think can create issues later on down the road. But once you're a member, they do offer the lock-in style tag kit, and I think the needle's like $7, and then for another 10 tags, it's like $6. So
yeah,
for an additional $20, you're talking like $80 to start out or something like that. If you wanted to go with the lock style. But
yeah,
I think with the wire tags, the biggest thing you got to worry about is them falling out. We caught a fish 2 years ago. We got the tag, but it fell out of the fish. When we released it, it was a short, but it was like 17 inches. It was tagged. I forget when it was tagged, but it was tagged at 12 inches, like offshore somewhere crazy between Cape May and Delaware offshore. So it was
that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool when you see that. I saw a picture of a redfish that was tagged and it was caught, I think it was 8 years apart, but it was in the same spot. So obviously it had left, but it had come back to the same spot. Actually, no, it wasn't tagged. It had the same spots. It had an odd spot pattern on its body, and the two pictures came up. So you could see it was the identical fish. It was just a lot bigger, and that was actually, I guess I saw that a couple of weeks ago. But
you can probably start a database with them redfish because the spots are all unique.
Well, you can actually, if anyone's interested, it's actually a great Facebook page. It's called Drum Spots. Just go look up that page, and they post all these pictures, of all the different spots on the redfish. It is actually pretty cool, especially if you like catching redfish. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. John did have a question. Are there any videos on how to tag? There are videos out there. I think we can make John show us or do a video on how to tag.
I will do that with the spaghetti style if I go fishing this weekend.
No, just demonstrate on yourself.
Just put it through your ear. It'll be all good.
Actually, yeah, we could. I could re-pierce my ears. We could give it a shot.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. So thanks everybody for coming in. That's what we got. So you can get some of the reactions. Again, I'm going to be very clear. Number 4 was the one I wanted, then number 1, and then number 2, which would have been the first of these slots. So turns out we had to have a slot because that's the way that they wanted to go. It was very clear at the beginning of the meeting when Eleanor or whatever her name was wanted to totally change the recommended option, but
then it wasn't clear because then they voted against it, and then they voted for it.
But they voted against it because 2 of the guys said, I'm not voting for it until I hear the public opinion. So at the end, when they tried to say, well, it was already turned down, you can't reopen it, that was bull, because the 2 guys said, the only reason I'm voting against this is because you're supposed to let the public talk before we do any voting. So anyway, yeah, Joe's saying, I think everybody wanted option 4. Yeah, I don't think everybody did, but I think 4 would have been the best in the long run. But that's where we are. So the good news is
they need to do it.
We're going to get to see all of you guys out on the water 3 weeks early this year, almost 4 weeks early. So it's May 2nd that it opens up. There are big fish in the back at that time. If you want big fish in the backwaters, it isn't as easy as it is to catch a small flounder in the middle of June, but they're back there. So, start looking in, and I'll tell you, start looking in the flat. Actually, we're going to have a whole thing on this in a couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about opening flounder, and in anticipation of the longer season, we actually scheduled it for before May because I thought we would get one of these early May openings. So we're going to have that conversation. It's going to be the 3 of us. Maybe we'll pull in somebody else, just so we can get one more opinion in on it. See Elle sitting there. You pull in Elle. Maybe we'll pull in somebody else. But anyway, thanks everybody for checking it out. Thanks for coming by. Hopefully you're not too pissed off like Ed. And Ed was going crazy earlier. He was so pissed off.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get
John,
vocal.
back
I'm
me up.
Italian. I get worked up.
Yeah, I think we were all at least a little worked up. So, all right, guys, we're going to be back next week. It will not be a live stream on Monday. My work is making me go to a dinner that well, none of them watch it, that I don't want to go to. I have to go to a dinner on Monday night. So we're trying to reschedule with our guests for Tuesday night. If that doesn't work, we're still going to be on and we're still going to have a show. So just don't look for it Monday night. It's going to be Tuesday. So with that, thanks everybody. Try to get out there through the wind this weekend. Get some tight lines. See you later.